はい、本日も放課後ティータイムが始まりました。Hi everyone, we're USYD
放課後 Tea Time.
Welcome to episode 4 of the University of Sydney's Houkago Tea Time. 始める前にまず Acknowledgement of Country をしたいと思います。どうぞお願いします。
Today we are meeting on Gadigal land. We acknowledge the traditional custodian of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay respect to elder past, present, and emerging.今日私たちはガディガルの土地に介しています、この土地を代々受け継ぎ守ってきたエオラネーションのガディガルの人々を尊重し、過去及び、現在そしてその後継者となる人々に慎んで敬意を表します。
はい、ありがとうございます。放課後 Tea Time is a fortnightly podcast organized by Sydney University's Japanese Studies Department, run by Japanese Studies students, made for all students interested in Japanese culture.Before we get into the episode, let's go around and introduce our hosts for today.
こんにちは、マチルダです。今日はストロベリーセンチャーを飲みます。Hi, I'm Matilda. Today I'm drinking strawberry sencha.
こんにちは、ニクソンです。今日はラテを飲みます。はい、I'm Nixon and today I'm just drinking a latte.
こんにちは、ノブです。今日は、コーヒーを飲んでいます。I'm Nobu.Today I'm drinking coffee, but this coffee I roasted coffee bean and then
Ooh, very
made,
nice.
Yes,
very
coffee,
fancy.
Yeah, so.
Well, settle in and get comfy and grab a drink with us today. Today we have a very special guest, one of our teachers, Nobu-sensei. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Of course. Before we get started on today's topic of research, we would like to do a introduction for Nobu-sensei in 優しい日本語 Let's go じゃあ、こんにちは。
こんにちは。
Nobu-sensei、趣味は何ですか？
そうですね、私の趣味は、コーヒーを作ることですね。なので今日持ってきたコーヒーは私が、ローストしてでコーヒーをひくグラインドして、でコーヒーを入れて作った。
そうですか、
はい、
おしゃれですね。
そうです。いえ。
いつから？
そうだな、結構前、5年6年ぐらい前から。
すごい。
そう、最近コーヒーの値段プライスがどんどん高くなってるから、今多分コーヒー1カップ5ドルぐらいするけど、
そうですよね、高いですよね。
そうですね。
だから自分で作るようにしました。
すごいコーヒーマスターになりましたよね。
そうですよね。そうコーヒーについてもなんかコーヒーの味についてなんかどんな味がなんかしてほしいんですか？
そうだね。僕が好きな味はどちらかというと酸っぱい、サワー、アシディティがある。サワーって変だな。英語で言ったらアシディティがあるような味が好きですね。
そうですか。ニクソンはコーヒー飲むと砂糖入れますか？
いや、全然入れないんです。
私も入れないんですけど、先生は？
私も入れないです。
そうですか。結構コーヒーは苦いから、最初に飲むときはみんなは入れるんだけど、最近なのはもうちょっと慣れてきて、砂糖なしで飲んでいます。
そうですか。
マチルダさんはミルクは入れますか？
そう、ミルク入れます。
入れます。
先生は？
私はミルクも入れないです。もうブラックで飲んでますね。
苦すぎませんか？
最初は苦いと思ったんですけど、なんていうのかな、最近ちょっとダイエットをしたい。
確かに分かりました。
なのでミルクは入れないようにしてます。
で、ニクソンは今日ソイラテ
そうですよね。ソイミルクに入れたんですけど、でも普通にそうですね、ロンブラックを普通に飲んでいますね。
いいですね、コーヒー。じゃあ、
はい、ノブ先生、好きな音楽は何ですか？
好きな音楽はそうだな、結構最近よく聞くのは、 宇多田ヒカルの曲なんですけど、知ってます？宇多田ヒカルって。
ニクソンは？
難しいですよね。聞いたことがあるんですけど、どっちの、名前、この曲の名前も忘れたんですけど、なんだっけ。
アニメのエヴァンゲリオン、エヴァンゲリオンの映画の曲をよく歌ってる歌手ですね。
わかりました、わかりました。
なんかラストコールかな。なんか全然覚えてない。
天使の。
それは違う。天使のテーゼじゃない。
それだけ知ってます。
それだけ。じゃない。なんだったっけ。ビューティフルワールドとか、ビューティフルワールドとか、あともう一個、ファーストキスだったっけな。
ファー
ストキスだったよね。
おすすめですか？
おすすめです。彼女は彼女がその歌ってる曲は自分で作って、自分で歌詞を曲も歌詞も作って
いいですね。
シンガーソングライターなのですごい才能のある歌手だなと思います。
わかりました。後で聞きますね。
ぜひぜひおすすめです。
はい、先生は話せる言語は何でしょうか？
一応日本語はネイティブですけど、英語とあと中国語も話せます。マンダリンですね。マンダリン。
そうですか。どこで学びましたか？
私が、小学校の時とあと中1までは、台湾に住んでいて、
すごい。
で台湾の、日本人学校に通ってたんですけど、でも結構なんていうの、学校の外で、その台湾の人と友達だったので、そこからこう中国語を習ったというか、
いいですね。
なんか俺もなんか、マンダリン語になんか、そういうことも全然忘れちゃったんですけど、俺にとって普通になんか広東語をもう話せますけど、でもやっぱすごいですよね。
でもね、僕のそのマンダリンは、小さい時に学んだからもう子供のマンダリン
すごい。ニクソンは話せる言語？
もちろん英語と広東語、広東語はなんか俺の母語なので、中国語を聞いたらなんか最初になんか広東語をなんか解釈していて、後にはマンダリン語になんか翻訳
じゃあ結構その外国語みたいな感じで、
そうですよね。
プロセスしてる。そうなんだ。
私は普通に英語と日本語です。でも1年生の時は韓国語も学びました。1年間。でもちょっとその時は大学に入って学んでる日本語のレベルはそんなに高かったから、韓国語もその時学ぶのは文法とかは似てるから、ちょっとどっちが日本語どっちが韓国語覚えにくかったから、それはちょっと嫌で、やめました。
そうなんだ。
残念だけど。
そうなんだ。じゃあ似たような言語を勉強するのは難しかったんですね。
そうですよね。だから似てる言語だったらあと2年間待つと思うんだけど、最近はお父さんはドイツ語話せるから、お父さんからドイツ語を学んでみたいと思います。じゃあ続きましょう。Okay, so today, because we have our sensei here with us, we'd love to hear a bit about your personal research, since students have only really seen you in the Japanese language classroom. So we'd love if you could introduce what you have researched or what you do research. That would be super cool.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll start with my past research.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm talking about my PhD research. So in my PhD, I investigate how children's understanding like a logical word, like let's say in English would be not, or, and. I also sort of investigate Japanese and Chinese Mandarin speaking children as well, in how they interpret those logical word. で、so what I found from my investigations is that let's say I should maybe talk about how we interpret this word, logical word in Japanese, English, and Mandarin Chinese. So let's say, for example, the sentence like John didn't eat sushi or ramen. Yeah. And so as an adult native speaker of English, you probably understand as John didn't eat either of neither of them, right? Yeah. So but in Japanese, if you say John さんは、寿司かラーメンを、食べませんでした。That means John didn't eat. So John didn't eat either ramen or sushi, but it doesn't mean that he didn't eat anything, right? So difference between Japanese and English is obvious.
Yes.
And then I think the Chinese the same things, same as I think Japanese. So let's say in Chinese, if you say John, maybe I can speak Chinese maybe. Okay, so 约翰没吃了寿司或者拉面。I think I believe that Chinese speakers think like same as Japanese interpretation.
I see.
So as you can see that different language has a different interpretation in terms of when the sentence has these two logical words, so not and or.
Yes.
And so, but when I look at children's, they sort of interpret exactly the same as English adult speaker, regardless of their native language. So even Japanese native kids, Japanese native kids, they actually interpret Japanese word like ジョンさんは、寿司かリンゴ寿司か、ラーメンを食べなかった、as a English. Like John didn't eat sushi or.
Wow, that's interesting.
So だから and then the same things for Mandarin speaking children as well.
Right.
So they interpret as
the adult English speakers.
English speaker.
Wow. Has that got something to do with like the way our brains are set up to understand language, or?
Yeah, so that's my argument is exactly that.
Right.
So they have some default kind of interpretations.
Right.
And then as they grow up, they
their
will
language conditions.
Yeah, and then they pick up their
the nuance.
unique.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And that was your PhD topic?
Yes, so that's my PhD
That's
research.
so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Where did you complete your PhD?
So I did PhD at Macquarie University.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. That's super cool. Wow. Okay, what about your current research?
Yeah, so my current research is a bit stay away from the child language acquisitions, and then now I investigate more towards like language education and teaching and learning. But so what I'm investigating at the moment is about AI and particularly machine translation in my case, and language learner. So what I'm investigating, what belief by language learner will affect their intention to use machine translation.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say if you think machine translation give us accurate translation, then would that makes us to, language learners to use machine translation, or maybe what about their belief in ethical issues like sometimes you feel like using when you use, maybe I'm not sure, but maybe even when I use kind of machine translation I feel guilty in a sense,
of course.
So that kind of ethical belief, and also whether you think using machine translation is useful or easy to use, and that kind of sort of belief. So how that affect to use actual machine translation.
Yeah,
that's super interesting.
No, exactly. And it's also a very relevant topic with a lot of Japanese
100%.
students who, because in a way, machine translation and that sort of aspect is like sort of one of many methods that I think a lot of students kind of try and whenever they're learning a new language as well, try to also have as one of their assets as well, in addition to, of course, using textbooks
Yeah, that's
and also class as well. So it is definitely a very relevant topic, and I think Matilda and I, as students, I think both have quite a lot of our own personal experiences with dealing with that as well. Yeah,
I feel like I don't really use AI at all for anything because, I'm just seeing how long I can last without it. I can win against it. But I think I was involved in a project where we were developing AI models to help as teachers or for checking work and for helping run drills with kanji and katakana for Japanese 1 classes, because there's so many students in beginners subjects that teachers physically cannot give enough time, even if they desperately want to check the work of students, every day after every lecture. And so we were trying to find a way to involve AI so that students could use it. I don't really want to say in exchange for a teacher, but as a quick access to improvement of language. And, certainly it's also helpful in the mindset that, like, introverted students as well who found it had a block about approaching a teacher because it's too intimidating, would also be able to use this kind of model. But it's then dangerous if we're training the AI super strongly on helping with understanding the content and using language of the content. Then how are we, encouraging students to not use AI in replacement for doing the actual work and submitting assignments when we've managed to make this AI model that can answer with all the correct answers from the module? So I think that was one of our challenges. Like, if they're doing Japanese 1, there's a potential that they're doing it because it's an easy subject and it's an easy way in to good marks. And if they complete it all with AI, then they're not learning anything. And, in reality, language is a medium to be able to communicate with other human beings. So if all you're doing is interacting with a machine the whole time, it seems like it's a bit of a waste.
Yeah, great. So, Matilda-san, do you mind asking you what makes you not using, machine translation or AI?
Yeah. So
what motivates you?
I am aware that there probably would be some benefits to my education if I used AI in cases like having quick, accessible access to like machine translation, for example. But I do have that kind of deep sense of like there's something uneasy within me whenever I consider AI because it's innately not human, and I have a great passion for the arts, and I think my passion for the arts and the impact AI is currently having on arts and artworks and music and that kind of part of culture is really affected how I feel about it in a completely objective, like, translation sense or mathematical sense. So I feel guilty that I'm abandoning my love for the arts because, like, I'm using it for something that it should be used for, which is a large language model, which is just pulling up words that it sees next to each other on its database of language. It's like, it's not a sentient being. It's fine. It's not going to take over right now translation, like jobs as translators. But I have a, strong passion for human work. And, I want human translators, and I want Japanese teachers. And I think I'm lucky that I was at a level of Japanese where we didn't have AI in high school. We didn't have it really at all in first year university. And now we have it, and I've already done my Japanese education. Yeah.
What about you, Nixon-san?
Well, I guess it kind of comes from my sort of engineering mindset of that always keep like aspects of whatever you do as part of like a tool in your arsenal. So I kind of see, for example, AI in particular to be that sort of tool asset, and it really just depends on how you utilize it.
Yeah.
So so what I find about particularly helpful for AI is if you don't have sort of for example, like a very effective method of using, as an example, ChatGPT is if you don't have the time to create your own Anki decks, you can literally copy that entire vocab list that you have and then have it set, a sort of mini game for you to do a recollection test, something like that. So it helps to kind of streamline your learning process, especially when you don't have the time to actually set up. sort of that, because often at times that was probably like, I remember back in high school, setting up palm cards to learn vocab was probably one of the most time-consuming aspects
100%.
of learning.
And then students don't do it. If it's going to take time, then a student who isn't 100% committed to the subject won't bother making flashcards, won't bother opening the textbook.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And of course, there are things you'll always need to be mindful of, just like with any tool. You always have to double-check things yourself, just like how every time I use like CAD software, I have to check, okay, make sure I'm in the right measurements. Like for example, using AI. For example, recently I've tried to use AI to help me with my own cable, but one thing you have to be very careful of, for some strange reason, for example, in ChatGPT, often at times it really likes to use a lot of Nishu cable, like doubling cable, which can make your writing very too stiff, right?
Of course.
So there's always these things that you have to personally check yourself. So like, where I see sort of kind of utilizing AI is just as a tool once again.
Yeah, 100%.
So as long as you don't overstep it and have it kind of just become the only thing you rely on,
of course.
I think it's completely like valid tool in your kit.
So Nixon-sensei, do you use AI to translate like a text or sentences into another language?
No, I often find that is not that helpful, just because kind of the way I sort of read text is I kind of want to try and aim to understand and think of it in that language itself. So in Japanese, I want to think about the text in Japanese itself, not in English, because I find that if I do it in English, there will be times where I get the sort of translation or interpretation mixed up, because like languages to me is like, it's kind of like, I think I may have mentioned before, like it's like two drawers for me. It's like the English drawer is there, that's my Cantonese drawer, that's my Japanese drawer. If I open all at once, everything gets too overwhelming. So that's why I try to avoid doing that as much as possible. And so I never usually use it to use AI to translate into English. What I do have though is, I don't remember the exact name of the plugin, but there's this plugin where you can, I don't remember the name, but it allows you to, like, if you've forgotten a word, you can just kind of highlight it and it will actually show you the definition.
Ikaiku.
Yeah, so that I do have that plugin attached to my devices.
We have like seen a massive improvement in like Google Translate since, was it like 5 years ago or something? Which is insane because I used it obviously I always use Google Translate to backwards check things that I have already written to make sure that there isn't a mistake, because it will translate it really, really weirdly into English if there's a mistake. Don't use Google Translate to translate all your assignments, is what I'm saying, from English. But it is a good tool to use to check. And it's definitely become much more like idiomatic and like actually Japanese or English sounding, rather than in the past when it translates it, it's like this kind of alienated, it's a different language and it doesn't use the right kind of phraseology or terms from the language. It just tries to pull the fastest kind of result. And that's what I'm wondering, like, Nobu-sensei, do you know whether ChatGPT or Google Translate or these kinds of things are creating natural sounding Japanese translations?
Well, I think theoretically it's possible if the data that machine translation whatever collected like natural spoken data, then it's possible maybe. But I guess it's impossible. I mean, like theoretically it's possible, but practically I think it's impossible.
I mean, how is the model going to ignore the bias from having the English in front of it? Like, you want to be thinking about language as coming from a source of itself rather than in reference to another language, unless you're in translation studies, in which that's the whole point, is that we talk about whether we want it to be closer to Japanese, like literary styles, or English literary styles, or whatever. So, yeah, I certainly would be hesitant to use AI at the moment if I was trying to translate on the spot to use that Japanese.
Yeah, and I think actually with that point as well, it's because language, I'm not a linguist or an expert in any of that, but it feels very like one thing that a lot of translation machines I feel like also get really wrong is context as well. Is in what context you're actually using the phrase. actually, this is, I think, in general, if you don't actually look into the nitty-gritty details of actually words in general. So I remember this is one example that just came up recently, where the word, so there's this word in Japanese called oten, which if you literally translate it, it means like stain. But if you don't really look deeper into the deeper context, the word stain, it's more of a sort of abstract idea of like a stain on yourself, like a disgrace, not like a literal like stain on your shirt. And that's, I think, these aspects, if you just, for example, put that direct word into translation onto Google Translate, it's not going to help you with those sort of, I guess, deeper connotations, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And the cultural context as well. Like, the model isn't necessarily going to understand cultural context or human context, or even the context of the lives of the people that are using it, let alone the context that it's like a non-literal use of the word.
Yeah, but actually, machine translation is getting smarter and smarter, and then
Yes.
they actually now start to looking at the context as well.
Yeah.
So instead of, let's say, if you want to get the, let's say, like contextual words, it's better to, put the, I should say, a lot of text
Yes,
with,
of
with
course,
the
of course.
context, so that they will give you the actual. They will
Exactly.
consider the context and then give
Yeah.
you the accurate meaning.
Yeah.
Instead of just translate one sentence. So they're getting smarter and smarter. So I think so. Even the cultural things, let's say, when you use a particular word in a culturally context situations, because in that context, you also, so basically how machine translation works is simply it's probability. So when you use this particular word in a certain context, you will find the, the word that likely to
follow,
out,
yes.
with, and then they can see the context, those words, and then they give you the correct interpretations or meaning there. So it's getting smarter and smarter. So which is impressive, but I still find that it's kind of even like a machine translation is getting smarter, and then becomes like a first of all, there's no perfect translation, but as if that they can translate almost, like, let's say 90% accurately. But still, I don't see, machine translations will take over what we are doing in the classroom or the natural translation. That, as a native, a multilingual speaker, that translation and what translation that's by machine translation. So I think it's quite different.
I think the what I said before, to that point that you said, is so important. Like, we're not learning language to use it with an AI model, we're learning the language to use it with people. So there's less of a point to learn, like, spend all of your learning with AI if the end goal is to be able to talk with humans, because you may as well be learning from humans at that point, and actually learning how humans react to conversations and getting to know a person rather than a large language model.
And so I guess, Nobu-sensei, what's sort of your, I guess, recommendation or advice to your students then who are sort of tempted to also utilize AI and machine translation? How would you, I guess, recommend, I guess, what sort of, I guess, strategies, I guess? Or any like sort of like,
I think, so first of all, I'm not going against using machine translation, because I study computer science and AI when I did bachelor degree. So I love those technology and stuff. And so, as Nixon-san said, if you use tools wisely, I think it will help you learning language. So my sort of recommendation is, whenever you use those AI machine translations, try to involve cognitive process when you use it. So let's say I can't give you exact example at the moment, but let's put it this way. If you use Google Map to go somewhere, like your friend's house,
Yeah.
which you never been there. So that's why you're using
Yeah.
Google Map, right? So, and assume that you're a driver, and then there is a passenger sitting next to you, okay? And then so that's the first time you go to your friend's house, so you use Google Map. And then as a driver, of course, you just follow what Google Maps say. But if you keep going your friend's house a couple of times, drivers know how to go there without Google Map.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're a passenger, you need to still you need to have Google Map to know how to get there.
Yes.
That's because as a driver, when you use Google Map, you sort of while you're driving, you are thinking a lot of things like you need. So Google Map say like you need to turn right here, and then while you're driving, you see there's a petrol station in that corner, so that I have to turn. So a lot of cognitive processes going while you're using that Google Map. But as a passenger, they just listen to what Google Maps says, but they are doing something else or out of mind. So therefore, for them, it's they won't learn anything.
Yeah.
So it's the same things for ChatGPT or the machine translation, I guess. If whenever you use that, try to involve cognitive process.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's I think that's the key.
That's
so,
a perfect example.
Yeah.
That made complete sense. Yeah. Wow, so interesting.
Yeah.
And I think as well, something that's incredibly important, especially at the moment, is a sense of critical thinking in the world and with translation. Like, how is this correct and how is this potentially wrong? And how may it be correct for the context in which I use it? I think critical thinking is a skill that we can all build on.
Yeah, and it's that sort of, I guess, proactive mindset as well.
Yes. Yes. And the end goal in sight. I'm learning a language to talk to people. And this is a tool that can help me. Maybe I need to learn from that one. Okay, well, thank you so much. That's super, super interesting.
You're welcome.
I hope everybody learnt something and have considered how they feel about AI. So before we finish the episode, we're going to do what we do every week, and that's play a game. Today's game is called Tanuki Game. Okay, I will explain the rules. タヌキゲームは言葉からタを抜いて話す遊びです。例えば、太鼓の達人であれば、一個の通人になります。フリートークを行い、タを言った人から脱落していき、最後まで残った人の勝ちとなります。
難しそうですね。
やばい。
だはどうでしょうかな。
だは
大丈夫
OK です。
オッケー。
じゃないとマチルダさんが
そう
マチルさんになっちゃう。
そう。
過去について話そう。したら難しくなるかも。過去について話す。
はい、わかりました。
じゃあ私から質問しますので、じゃあ今から始めましょう。はい。マチルダさんとニクソンさんは昨日何をしましたか？
昨日か。昨日何もしませんでし。
そんなことはないと思いますよ。
まあ普通にゴロゴロしちゃよ。
昨日はまあ暇がまあずっと空いているので卒業論文の貢献なんでしょう貢献文
県
大丈夫を進めてい
まし
進めてい
まし、
あ、実はわしは放課後ティームのエピソード3をエディット
編集
しまし。はい。
あ、そうですか。
のぶ先生は？
私は昨日日本語3のテストがあっからそのテストに参加していまし。
おー、すごい。
で、あと昨日はジムにも行きまし。
おー、
なんか交互みあいに話していますよね。
はい。あ、簡単すぎ。
お、
言った。
そうでしょ。
簡単って言うとすごい。すごい。じゃあマチルダアウト。じゃあお願いします。
はい。
じゃあちょっとスピードアップしましょう。
スピードアップ。はい。
そう言いたかったけど、もうスピードアップ。
じゃあニクソンさんは先週何をしまし？
そうですよね。先週あんまり特別なことがなんか別にでしょう。なんかまあ普通になんか卒業論文などそういうことのリサーチ研究などを進めていますと思うんですけど、他には他のイベントも準備しています。
なるほど。テストはあります。
いや特にないんですよね。主に課題などだけがあります。
課題はでし
いやじゃないんですけど、でも主にグループワークなのでなんかコラボの愛のことなのでなんかそのコミュニケーションのそういうことが多分最もなんか愛のことです。
どの科目ですか？
主に工学の工学ですよね。元具愛的に工学デザインということですよね。
工学デザインって難しいですか？
そうですよね。なんか主にチェック、なんか計算のチェックが難しいと思います。
計算は得意ですか？
いやそんなことはないんですけど、でもなんか計算はやっぱりめんどくさい と思います。
そうね。
何か質問聞いてね。
じゃあ、ノブ先生、そうですよね。なんか先週何をじゃなくて、じゃあ過去の終わりに将来に他のなんかゴールとかそういうことがありますか？
そうだね。将来どうだろう。
いや、
ちょっと
大丈夫だよ。
大丈夫だよ。
緊張してる。
ゴールはそうだな。でもまずは私言っちゃったはいしまった
でも俺はなんか遅すぎるじゃない、なんか返事がいや
遅すぎたニクソン。
ごめん、ちょっとなんかずっと考えて
でも先生はずっと質問聞いててニクソンは気づかなかった
そう
強い
ストラテジー
いや
そっか、まあ楽しかった。ありがとうございます。Before we end today's episode, let's look back to last week's question. Where did Mori go for university exchange in Japan? The answer is Tohoku University in Sendai.
This week's question is, what are the 2 types of matcha made in tea ceremony that Sarah taught us about? はい、本日シドニー大学放課後ティータイムエピソード4いかがでしたか？
If you want to stay updated, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our Instagram at USYD.teatime. We hope you enjoyed chilling with us today and look forward to seeing you next time.
では本日のエピソードを聞いていただきありがとうございました。また次のエピソードでお会いしましょう。せーの、
またね。